I hope you have a nice day. I hope you go well in your test. I hope you have a great holiday. We use the word hope in many ways, but often I think we actually get it wrong. We confuse hope with optimism. Both they're a little bit similar, they both look towards the future. But optimism is about when the odds are already in our favour, when success is already likely. I can say, I'm optimistic about our chances. When we say, I hope you have a good holiday, what are the chances that you won't have at least somewhat a good holiday? Pretty slim, I think. So it's pretty easy to say, I hope you have a good holiday, but really we can be optimistic that will already be the case. Christian hope, though, the theological virtue of hope, is something different. Hope is when the odds are against us and when success is not assured or doesn't even seem very likely. But we don't give up and we keep on believing and leaning into that possible future. So hope is the people of Israel, longing and waiting for a Messiah to come for hundreds of years. But we read in the prophet Zephaniah tonight, or today, we hear the prophets write as if the Messiah has already come, saying, "Shout for joy, Israel, rejoice and exult with all your heart, for your God is in your midst." Of course, the Messiah did come, Jesus Christ, hundreds of years later. Hope is John the Baptist, announcing the Messiah is now very near, and the people of Israel responding by saying, well, what do we do? How do we prepare? And that active response is a hallmark of hope, where we actually act as if it's about to happen, so what can I do about it? Hope is Winston Churchill in the aftermath of the defeat and then the withdrawal from Dunkirk and the evacuation of Dunkirk, in that famous speech where he says, "We shall continue to fight. We shall fight them on the beaches. We will never surrender. And even if one day our land, our island is overcome, then we hope that the allies across the sea will one day come to be our liberation." And while we look back knowing that victory happened, in those days in 1940 it was much less assured. Hope is Anne Frank in that same World War, hiding behind a cupboard in Amsterdam and writing in her diary that she doesn't think of all the misery, she thinks of all the beauty that still exists. And hope is what Pope Francis is calling us to in the year ahead. Every 25 years in the Church we have a Jubilee year. And a Jubilee year is based on the Old Testament principle that every 50 years, every seven weeks of 7 years, we have a reset where debts are forgiven, land lies fallow, and relationships are reset. So we have a reset in the Church where the Pope announces to us that we need to draw a line under the past and look to the future with hope. So Pope Francis is calling us in 2025 to a Jubilee year of hope. And he does this particularly because he knows we need it right now. He says we've all lived through a pandemic which has eroded hope. It's eroded trust. It's eroded relationships. The financial scars and the psychological scars still remain for many people of the lockdowns and the limitations we had several years ago. Many people found their relationships have not recovered. Their trust in community has not rebounded. And the increasing cost of living, which was triggered off by the supply chain issues in COVID, have continued to make life difficult and fearful for many people. So Pope Francis' call to hope is very timely. He's written for us a document called Spes non confundit, meaning hope does not disappoint. Hope does not let us down. And he draws from St. Paul's words there. And hope is what the world and you and me need right now. Because the opposite of hope is despair. Despair says that things are awful and they will never get better, so I give up. And despair finds its fullest expression in suicide, which tragically is now the leading cause of death in adults under 44 in Australia. Many other young people despair by giving up in other ways. People think they never have a fulfilling future, will give up trying, giving up on work or study or relationships. Think of what we hear in the news so often about young people in towns like Alice Springs who've got no sense of a hopeful future, so they just give in to crime and violence. We give in to things like temporary pleasures, like alcohol and drugs, shopping, travelling, and gaming, etc. Hope doesn't deny that things are hard right now. Hope doesn't deny our present suffering, but it says there is a better tomorrow that is possible, and I can work towards it. Whether or not I get to see that better future myself, I will still believe it's possible, and I'll work towards it for others, if not for myself. Hope is Aung San Suu Kyi saying of the Burmese military that they will never win because all they have is guns. Hope is political prisoners in Syria who this week got to see, after 50 years, the overthrow of the al-Assad regime and themselves released from prison. Hope is Jesus Christ proclaiming faithfully the kingdom of God despite the growing opposition around him. And hope is Jesus going all the way to the cross. Our hope is grounded in the death and the resurrection of Jesus, which shows us that nothing, not even death, cannot be overcome.